Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm not sure why that level was so low, but you're here with me, Andy Signor, and I got a special guest Skyping in as we talk about a very triggering topic, which is are Star Wars fans ruining Star Wars? And before you just go off on me and say, no, Star Wars is doing that. Oh, who are you accusing? No. I'm talking more broadly. Spoilers. Just people getting politics into it. All of it. Can't we just all get along and let some people enjoy Star Wars and get over it? That's what I want to talk about. And I brought in Danny from Geekdom. Hello, you're on the air.
Yo, man, such a pleasure to be here with the creator of Honest Trailers, right? It's an honor to be here and speak to you, man.
Yeah, thanks for calling, man. So thanks for going on record to talk to me. Some people don't want to do it, so you got balls. I got to give you that.
Thanks. No, we're talking about nerd culture, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I am geekdom, right? So
yeah,
why
you
not?
are geekdom, exactly. I keep it on topic. So no, but we're gonna go with some topics here because this is a challenging topic for a lot of people because look, people get offended when you tell them what to think about certain properties, and they want to tell you what to think about certain properties. And right now, I just see there's just a lot of division, specifically with Star Wars as we wind down. And I know you were embedded in this, and I did a video last night where I mentioned you in that. So thanks for reaching out and doing this. But you were posting spoilers, and I just for the record, and I talked to you about it. I hate people who post spoilers. As long as you post a spoiler warning, though, I don't care what you do. You can do whatever the hell you want. But I know you did, at least in your video, that got struck by Disney. But you can elaborate on the update on that. But just for the fans' backstory, you posted a video about the spoilers that leaked yesterday about Star Wars. You gave your fans a warning before releasing them, and then you showed them. And then Disney blocked the video, correct?
Yes, they blocked it. I did not get a strike. They blocked it. And then today, which is the 24th of October, just to clarify, this morning, the block is gone. So somebody at the company at some point changed their minds. And it was a manual block, too, which means that somebody actually manually went into the YouTube system. It was not the automated system.
Yeah, no, people, you could tell that. For creators know, like when you get your strike or your block, whatever, it tells you what happens. So anyway, so now you're clear the video is back and Disney has backed off on that claim.
Yes, sir.
But by doing that claim, it really caused even more division because while I wish spoilers hadn't just been going around into people's Twitter feeds, which bugs me because people should have the choice to see the spoilers or not. We both agree on that, yes?
Yes, no, for certain. And actually, people have asked me on Twitter to show the images, and I keep saying, nope. Watch the video. Oh, you're trying to get clicks. No, I'm not. I'm trying to avoid spoiling people because when you have a big Twitter following, man, people are going to get mad at you over it. I learned that years ago.
Yeah, and I think just we have a duty. We have very little duties. We just be honest best we can and tell people when we're just speculating, etc. But to me, the one thing we all have to unite on is like, don't fricking spoil it without a warning. That's just so lame, and it happens time to time. So yes, everybody, I'm glad we unite. I hope everyone agrees on that. Like one rule, both sides can agree to. Let's not spoil it unless people ask them to be. But that being said, these spoilers triggered a lot of people. I don't want to talk about them. We're not going to talk about the specifics of the spoilers in this video. But just the fact that Disney pulled them caused a lot of conflict and made it a story for myself and others. And it just sort of opened up this whole can of worms again about Star Wars and how certain people hate it. And I wanted to talk about it. Like, there's a lot of people who think the movies are just bad, the new movies, that is. And there's a lot of people who think there's just too much, liberal politics involved in it and forced diversity and things, which I'm not in that camp at all. But I can see some of the arguments because I don't like when a studio or a movie just adds diversity to add diversity. I understand that conflict for people. I don't want to have my audience yell at me like, no, Andy, I understand that. At the same time, I don't really care. As long as the movie's good is what I care about. I don't care who they put in it. What are your thoughts?
No, I could agree with you completely. There are some things that that fans have been alarmed by, and specifically The Last Jedi was really that film where, there have been a lot of channels on YouTube and people have been talking about the politics in the film. But when you strip all that away, even if you take all that away, there's a lot of problems with that film. I feel like it's very poorly written. I feel like there's a side quest that goes nowhere. Even those who like the movie criticize that. I feel like some of the choreography in the movie, if you really focus on the fight with the Praetorian Guards and Rey and Kylo, there's some really bad choreography there. There's some poor editing, and I have nothing against Rian Johnson. He's made great films in the past. I don't think he's a bad filmmaker, but when it came to Star Wars, it was one of those things where typically me as a fan of film, I feel like directors should have creative freedom to do what they want. However, when there's a franchise like Star Wars that has 40 years of equity, you have a responsibility to the audience to produce something that fits in line with what they want. my opinion on that, and I'm going to stick by it. So the way that Luke Skywalker's character, the way it was written to me, and even to Mark Hamill himself, is even more offensive than whatever the SJW stuff is. Like, that stuff you can just ignore, and it's not even a big deal, in my opinion. But the way that Luke was written and the way that Rey has been written to be, people have said Mary Sue, but she basically doesn't sell. She has no real adversity except for figuring out who her parents are. So,
and she's easily manipulated a lot too. Yeah, it's there's problems with the character beyond just the Mary Sue-ness. Yeah, I agree with you.
No, completely. And they started off on a pretty decent foot with Force Awakens. Some folks did not like that movie, but they set the groundwork for something good to be done. And I feel like Last Jedi just kind of wasted that in many ways, what could have been, in the middle arc. Because the middle movie is the most important movie. Now, at the end of the day, what really sucks about this, Andy, is that when all is said and done and this trilogy is complete, even if The Rise of Skywalker is a fabulous, fantastic movie, people who don't like Last Jedi, there's always going to be that, I hate to use this term, but the turd in the punch bowl. You watch the trilogy 7, 8, and 9, you're going to have to sit through 8 if you didn't like it. And then you're going to have people who are going to watch 9 and it's going to change some things or maybe change the direction compared to 8, and they're going to hate 9 and like 8. So I'm wondering if there's going to be fans who actually enjoy the entire trilogy. And unfortunately, this is all down to J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio and what they do with Episode 9, because what Disney is asking for is something that's impossible. They want to please everyone. I don't know if that's really possible, man. It's like they're almost dead in the water at this point.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you, and I think what's interesting to me, the real reason for the problem with this new franchise, I do stem from Last Jedi. I know fans like it. There are people out there who defend it a lot, but for me, at least, the problem was just there was no cohesion to the storyline. There was a clear disconnect from what JJ started, and then Rian Johnson came in with his own plan, and then Kathleen Kennedy, Lucas, whoever was just like, yeah, let's go back to what JJ was doing. And even JJ has sort of gone on record to acknowledge this, that we're sort of correcting the direction of the ship. So it's like, that to me is the problem with this trilogy. You can't then have this finale and have us all expect to be excited and then manipulate us emotionally with the nostalgia and the new trailer, and then have Carrie Fisher's death and all this stuff sort of justify, like, see guys, this is worthy. Get excited. It's like, no, I'm going to see it, of course, but I'm frustrated that it's not building up to a level that it should have, because I agree with you. Chapter 2 was a bit of a whiff. Like, it didn't really know exactly what it was doing. But to also comment to what you just said, it's interesting. I remember back in the day, like, there were a lot of people who didn't like Return of the Jedi, the Ewoks, they just thought it went into this sort of not as good of a place. Kids loved it. I loved it as a kid.
I love it
but
still.
There were a lot of people who didn't in the time, like, oh, this is the worst of the 3. So it all is a generational thing for me. It's like people have their own version of Star Wars, and there's surprisingly a lot of people now who grew up on the prequels who like saw that as sort of their version of it, which is always odd to me, but I gotta respect there's different generations like different things. There's kids today who like the new Aladdin versus the cartoon, and that's frustrating. But I see why, just because like that's just how the medium and content is now. It looks more like what they're used to seeing. It's not like the old school style. Just some people don't like watching black and white movies or hand drawn things. You know what I mean? Like it's all generational. As CGI gets better, as stories are told and repeated, that's the sad reality of what happens. So I see this sort of grumpiness from Star Wars fans because it's not their Star Wars. You know what I mean? And that's, to me, where it all comes down to, like, why are we divided and why are Star Wars fans ruining it? I think Star Wars fans have the right to say whatever they want about these films and their own films and their opinions, of course. But, I see a lot of people just being so vocally negative about it before it's even out, that it's just like, look, can we just at least wait till the movie comes out? And then if you want to rip apart it, do your commentaries, your criticism, go for it. But like, why are we as communities just so keen on tearing it apart before we've even seen it? I mean, what is your thought on that?
I can shed some light on this actually, because it has to do with the whole spoiler video and what was going on. So I'm not going to go into specifics about spoilers here. Like we promised, we're not doing that. But essentially what's been going on is an individual by the name of Jedi Paxis has been releasing leaks for several weeks now of the Star Wars supposed film, Rise of Skywalker. And as you know, Reddit and 4chan, there's always BS. There's always people making up stuff.
Photoshopping, yeah.
Always. For Avengers Endgame, there was so many fake leaks that came out and none of it was true. So this guy's been putting out these like interesting plot details. And I did several videos on my channel, World of Geekdom, where I just, for fun, I read through them and kind of gave my thoughts. And the reason why I did that is not because I want to ruin the movie for people. I gave them a warning, obviously, but because, to be honest with you, Andy, I didn't think they were real, dude. Like, because and this is where I'm getting to here. As I'm reading these spoilers and actually talking about how I feel about them with the subscribers and, people are leaving comments and whatnot, I'm, and I'm leaving my comments, I'm just blown away as to how bad a lot of the stuff in those leaks were. So again, not going into specifics, but there were things that contradicted the previous film and the one before that and the other saga films. There's just a lot of things that don't make any sense when you compare it to what JJ, Kathy Kennedy, and what they've been saying about this movie. There's just so many things that in those leaks from Jedi Paxis that Making Star Wars, which is a credible website, actually in some ways they confirmed a lot of the stuff, not everything, but confirmed a lot of it. So when you're reading these spoilers, right, I thought they were fake. I literally am saying in the video, there's no way this can be real, because if they are real, then this shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the audience from J.J. Abrams and from Lucasfilm, because you have misunderstood what the problem was with Last Jedi, and it's not, quote, white men or whatever defense they want to use. There were actual story problems and character problems that they could have rectified in this film with better writing. But we have, J.J. Abrams, which in my opinion, to me, has never been that good of a writer. I do like his movies, but he's not that good of a writer.
I agree. He's hit or miss. I mean, the first Star Trek was fantastic, and then Into Darkness was just a mess because you didn't know where to go with it. Right.
Terrible. And then Chris Terrio, who wrote Batman v Superman, and everybody knows that that's a really disliked film.
Yes.
So I'm covering these spoilers, right? And then the actual image leaks come out, and the image leaks verify some of the things that were in the Jedi Paxis spoilers on top of the trailer. There are things in the trailer for Rise of Skywalker that came out during Monday Night Football that mirror what he said in those leaks weeks ago, and nobody had any idea. It was very on point. So a lot of the fans of Star Wars who are following these spoilers now are livid because they think that because a few things matched up, it's actually more than a few things, that the leaks that Paxis put out are real. And just
and
like me,
that's triggering a lot of fans. They're like, "Oh, I told you so."
Yeah, exactly. They're like, this is what you gave us. This is what you gave us. You had 2 years. You had all the fans telling you what we wanted. And, every fan is different. You can't please them all. And you definitely couldn't with this movie. But they could have told, there are actual character problems and story problems in these leaks. There's actual character decisions that don't make any sense with what was established in episode 8 or even episode 7. They're very uncharacteristic things. And I think that is what's triggering this anger now, because people are now saying, wait a minute, so you're telling me Paxis was right the whole time? This is what you're giving us? This is the end of the 9-film Skywalker saga? This is what you're giving us? And that's the way that I think people are irritated about this now. It's a disappointment, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think thank you for that insight, and that helps. I mean, because I'm trying to avoid the spoilers just for the sake of, if I'm going to be annoyed at the movie, I'd rather come to that conclusion on my own in the theater versus have all these people tell me before. And I still, even if they are sharing those feelings, though none of that is actually confirmed, those pictures could be doctored. They could be misdirects from Lucas. How brilliant would that be if they actually were like, you know what, we know what you guys are complaining about, so yeah, go fandom, go crazy, and then by the way, this is the real ending. I mean, I hope they're that brilliant, but I don't think they are. But I would hope they are.
Well, they struck my video, so that's why I don't think they are. Plus, another question is, even though I hope you're right, it could be wishful thinking. Why would Disney put out negative fake leaks? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would they put out stuff that people are going to complain about, knowing they're going to complain about it? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, you would do it for reverse psychology, so that way you get all these people who are your enemies, in theory, of the franchise, which are hurting the franchise. I would argue all these negative fans are really starting to take the air out. I think people just don't want to deal with it anymore. It's such a passionate fandom of community of people who are just mad, that it's like.
Some of them make good points though.
Totally. I'm not even criticizing them. Actually, I'm really not. I'm just saying there's so much passion from it that it's like at a certain point it's just like I'm fed up. I'm like, I don't want to get into the weeds of this anymore. Like, I just don't care that much about Star Wars, to be perfectly honest. No matter what side it is, and so I think that just there's a little bit of an exhaustion from it. Of like, all right, enough already. But what I was getting at was just more like, you're right. I don't think they would, but why would they do it for the reverse psychology? Sort of to sort of put the middle finger to that fan base to be like, see all your arguments, see what you did. You fanned up all these flames for no reason because you didn't even give us a shot to do what we want to do. Here it is. Now enjoy it. And now you're all surprised. I mean, it would be brilliant, but I agree with you. It's a lot of work, and it's sort of, I hope someone hears that and thinks about it next time, because it would be a brilliant way for a Game of Thrones or somebody to like throw off the scent and like do it the right way through a reliable seeming blog and actually do it. But I agree. From everything I've read, it seems like what we're leaking is real, which is sad because it just sort of ruins the experience. And it's sort of going to make a lot of minds up before they even see the film, because so many people are commenting on sort of what that means to them, that, you know, a lot of people don't want to don't make up their own opinions. They sort of listen to what the masses say. So the whole thing is frustrating, where I do think, you know, and I don't blame the fans. I don't want to blame the fandoms or whatever for blaming it, but I do think, you know, Star Wars is sort of caving in on itself. They need something different. They need to get out of this trilogy desperately and start something else, so they can not be tied to the nostalgia and the Star Wars that other people love, and start creating their own new, you know, planets and things that sort of can be like, all right, well, these are their own things. We're starting over. We're planting new seeds. Let's build up new audiences. And I think Mandalorian hopefully can do that. And who knows what the next trilogies do. But I can't wait for this all to just be over so we can move forward. I mean, do you share any of that frustration too?
I honestly don't care anymore. I lost my passion for Star Wars with The Last Jedi. Was part of it because honestly, man, like what the problem is actually when you really dig deep, it's not even Last Jedi. Even though that was a big problem, the problem is the lack of direction. It's become obvious based on interviews and just watching the films. There was no direction with this trilogy. They're bringing back Palpatine. That's been confirmed now. People are trying to tell us it was the plan the entire time, but yet there's literally zero foreshadowing to this in 7 or 8. There is no foreshadowing to Palpatine being alive. They're shoehorning him in. And me as a Star Wars fan, as a film fan, I'm like, okay, this is obviously trying to appeal to the nostalgia junkies and focus again on the past. You know, you made a video recently about how they're being manipulative in their marketing, and I did a video similar that's going to come out on Sunday about that too. It's very obvious what they're doing. It's all about nostalgia, you know, playing around with people's nostalgia, whereas they should be taking the nostalgia and maybe using it for the first film and then moving on to a new direction. But the problem is they had no direction, and whatever direction they had, you know, Kathy Kennedy gave Rian Johnson carte blanche to do whatever he wanted, and it all went, you know, in the toilet. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is if they had sat down and written, you know, basic plot outlines for the 3 films, then they could do foreshadowing of events in this movie, in that movie. There are events that are probably going to happen in 9 that contradict 8 and 7, and that's when you know that it's just shoehorned. It all comes off very shoehorned.
And I think that's where Kathleen Kennedy did fail. Like, people want to knock on her, but my only knock on her was, you know, you didn't succeed in having an overall smart vision through the whole through line. And you should have hired somebody who could help you do that if you couldn't do it yourself. You know, that's why Kevin Feige is who he is, and why people respect. You can knock the Marvel films all you want, but you can't knock him on not having a cohesive vision for that MCU. And it was brilliant, and it worked. And so he gets all the props for it. And I think Star Wars desperately needed someone like that to sort of really be paying attention and having that creative vision and knowing which creative people to hire. When she fired Lord and Miller, that was a huge problem. And it's just like, seeing what those guys are capable of, and then having them jump to do Spider-Verse, it's like, what the hell? I want to see their movie, not Ron Howard's movie. Like, what were you thinking? Like, how could you take those people away? And there may have been genuine issues on set. Who knows? Whatever. But my point is, there's enough stories throughout to sort of show that you're right. We're on the same page of that. The cohesion or plan, if you will, this was non-existent. And I think, you know, sure, I could say fans are destroying Star Wars, but I think that is a little bit unfair. I can see why people think fans are, because they're so passionate. And some of them get toxic. Absolutely. Some of them get too toxic, not naming names. I'm just saying some people get, you know, when they get too much into, you know, the Rose stuff and whatever, who cares? And then some people say, well, I didn't even saw that. There's conspiracy that there weren't even Rose complaints. I don't believe that either. My just feeling is I just want good movies, and Last Jedi left people too divided. It wasn't a success by any means.
And I will add this there too. One of the things that killed it for me was when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they were going to erase the EU and create this new canon. And me as a fan, I got really invested in the new canon. I was reading some of the newer books, the Aftermath books, and there are things in these books and comic books that had come out. And obviously you don't need that to see the movies, but there were little clues and plot threads that were kind of building up where I was very invested. Like, oh, there's this going on over here. And it's like, okay, this wasn't addressed in Force Awakens, but maybe it will be in 8 and 9. And then episode 8 ignores like 99% of that. There were things in the books that contradict episode 8, man. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, is Ryan Johnson talking to the story group? They're saying he is. He's saying they are. But is he really? Because it's just they built up all these things in the books that you think you're going to get paid off in the films, and they don't. And I also think it's unfair that as a Star Wars fan, they want you to spend $30 on this book, $40 on that book, or you want this story, you got to buy this game. Like it's marketing, I get it, but the main story should be in the films.
Yes.
Everything else should be like, okay, you want to learn about Phasma's backstory or DJ? Fine, get the books. I shouldn't have to read the books to find out how the First Order was formed. Here we are. 3 movies. We're almost at the last trilogy, part of this trilogy, the sequel trilogy. We still don't know exactly what happened with the First Order. Some of it was revealed in the books, but there's still a big mystery. We don't know anything about Snoke, and we're probably not going to know because the film is 2.5 hours long. They can't cram 4 hours of content. So it's like we're going to end up having questions, especially the casual fan. They're not going to even know where to even look.
Well, it's even more frustrating because I know a lot of people, myself included, got upset about like C-3PO. What the hell's how does he miss these friends he's staring at? And then everyone corrected me like, oh, well, it's a year later. They're going on adventures that'll be shown in a comic book series later. And I'm like,
but you don't want to buy the comic
I don't want to come. No, I want to watch the movies. Like now I got to like, no. So this part won't even make sense because now I'm going to have to go back and read the comic book after the movie. That's too much world building for me, and it gets frustrating.
Dude, what was a bad one was Rogue One. In Rogue One, right, we're supposed to care about Galen and Jyn Erso, and I think that film did a very poor job of getting us to care about the characters, even though I do love the third act. But yeah, and then, of course, if you read Rogue One Catalyst, then you get to know the characters better. And it's like, no, why do I have to read a novel? Yeah. Is Gareth Edwards not capable to get us to care about characters? Well, in Godzilla, he sure as heck didn't.
So I think you're proving the point of it's not the fans that are destroyed. The fans are passionate, and the fans are allowed to be passionate. It is Disney that's destroying Star Wars. They are creating too many other outworldly things without really thinking about it all through. And then these movies are unfocused. There's no direction, and they're just trying to quickly get through this to sort of get to the next thing. Whereas I think people are finally, myself included, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm excited for Mandalorian because it feels like Favreau has that vision. It feels like he did focus. He got Filoni in, who everyone's like, why hasn't that guy been able to do something live action up until now? And it's like, it doesn't even seem like Kathleen Kennedy figured that out. Favreau figured that out. And it's like, dude, Kathleen Kennedy, you had Dave Filoni, who's been doing it beautifully in animated series, and you're just now, oh yeah, he can direct a couple episodes. Like, what idiots. Like, why didn't they just activate him and push him up the ranks? Just was like, you know what? Help us. You've been doing this so well. You've earned it. Do it. And instead, they didn't do it.
Lucas is his mentor. I mean, he learned a lot directly from George Lucas. Yeah, he's like Dave Filoni's like a mind when it comes to this universe, and it would have been great.
They've had him in the whole. They've had him there in the world, and they've just have not used. I mean, granted, he's been doing his show, but I would argue like, quit doing the show and make some freaking good movies.
And they had George too.
Yeah,
they had George too.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, I think in talking with this, it's easy to blame the fans, which I think a lot of people do. But at the end of the day, I do think Disney has to be responsible too for sort of the bad storytelling, bad choices they're making. And now with Disney Plus, while I'm excited for Mandalorian, I'm worried. Okay, now with the Cassian Andor show, and then like Kenobi, like, is it really the end of Skywalker? No, they're saying it is, but of course we're still going to get little things. And I'm just sort of like, the idea of a Ewan McGregor Kenobi, I'm sort of like, maybe if this, but at the same time, I'm like, can we just please move forward? Like, please find some cool new niche that we haven't talked about in the galaxy. It's a big galaxy.
Yeah, like Old Republic type stuff.
Yeah, just find some cool stuff that has nothing to do with it that we can build up and do. And there's ways to make world building, franchises, comics, etc., without having to feel like it's all, we have to, let's make sure episode 9 takes place a year later so we can make sure that we give the comic place, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not Feige world building in my mind. That's just like idiot, obvious corporate synergy greed. And I think that's really what's starting to hurt it.
And it's also, hey, let's use the same ships over again. For all the
we have those rendered already.
Dude, for all the slack that George Lucas gets, at least he was inventing and coming up with new tech for the prequels, like the Naboo fighters, the Jedi fighters. Here we are again with TIE fighters and X-Wings, which I like, but it's just so obvious that it's pandering to nostalgia and it's not doing it right. If you're going to pander to nostalgia, you should have had this trilogy be about Han, Luke, and Leia's adventures after episode 6, and that would have been the right thing. I think fans would have enjoyed that more than what they got.
Yeah, and
Instead,
I would have rather like had someone like Luc Besson come in and do what he did with Valerian, but like with a better story and like really take us to a new visual. Like, all right, we've zoomed into the future. Here's a new vision of what Star Wars is in this new, this new future. Like that is what Lucas did with the prequels. Like he built the world with the new effects, and while I do think it looked a little soulless because the technology wasn't good enough and the story
right.
was just he's not a good director. He's a better sort of visual guy, right? And like
Yeah,
building up
he's a
the
better visionary.
ideas. But it's like he needed some better storytellers to come and actually help him. Be like, no, let me work with Natalie Portman. You got a really good actress here. Let's have her phone it in. And he just didn't know how to do it all. He focused on those visuals. And to be fair, to his credit, there were some really cool visuals in that. If you really can get past this sort of annoying story and script, like it's really visually stunning and inventive. And we don't see that it started in Force Awakens. I love that shot where he pauses the blaster, and I thought, oh, cool. Right at the beginning of Force Awakens, I was like, oh, this is dark. That was thrilling. I'm like, this could be exciting. And then it just fell into its old nostalgic ways, and then really lost it in Last Jedi. But anyway, yeah. Final thoughts as I wrap this up. Go ahead.
No. We're gonna wrap it. I just want to say that's kind of interesting how Lucas is a better, in my opinion, like we talked about, a better visionary, but not as good of a director. JJ's the opposite. He's a clone. He's a Spielberg and Lucas fanboy.
Diet Spielberg, right?
Which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And we gotta give him at least a little bit of sympathy in that he did choose to come back for 9, but he was tasked with this impossible task of wrapping up not just this trilogy, but all 9. And it's really, really hard. We could sit here and rack our brains for hours and hours and hours coming up with plots for this movie. Maybe do better ones, maybe not do less than good ones, but it's not easy. This is not. So I don't want to cut him any slack, obviously, but at the same time, I don't envy his position. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much it, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. Very fun talking with you. You know your stuff, and I like you're in the middle ground, sort of with me on these things. We should make this a podcast. Star Wars, the middle ground, not the high ground, not the low ground, the middle ground, where we try and make sense of this. So come back anytime. Thanks for talking with me. Everybody, hit up World of Geekdom over on YouTube. Danny, thanks so much. Anything else you want to plug?
No, man, my main channel is Geekdom101, Dragon Ball centric, anime centric. World of Geekdom is movies and random discussions about whatever I want to talk about. It's just kind of a channel where I just dump my thoughts. No scripts, nothing. It's just dump my thoughts. So it's more real. But thank you again for having me, and I did have a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, man. I enjoy watching your dumps over there, and stay tuned for more of them. And thank you all for watching. Hit me up on social at Andy Signor. You can hit that subscribe button, notification bell, all that stuff you know how to do. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one. Bye!